Welcome back, welcome back. If this is your first time here at my channel, please hit the subscribe button. I'm gonna jump right into this, okay? What I'm about to drop right here is the classic example of the beginning of this generation and 2 to 3 generations back definition of white supremacy. This is it in a nutshell, man. The hottest topic right now is the Israeli and Palestine conflict. And I'm going to give you the groundwork on how all of this started. And it's going to be real short. You're going to understand what's going on over there now. It's going on. So, with that being said, let's jump right into it. This gentleman you're looking at right here, Theodore Herzel, he is the father of the Zionist movement. As you can see right here, the gentleman was born in May of 1860, and he passed in July of 1904. He was an Austro-Hungarian Jewish journalist and political activist who was father of the modern political Zionism. Herzel formed the Zionist organization and promoted Jewish immigration to Palestine in an effort to form the Jewish state. So the gentleman you're looking at right here, this was the start of what's going on now. This gentleman was born in 1860. That's over 100 years ago. Okay, now I could read more down here, but I want to get right into the video, so let's jump right into it.
To Theodore Herzel's diary entry 4 years later. Now, Theodore Herzel, of course, was an Austro-Hungarian Jewish journalist.
Now, this gentleman right here is reading from Herzel's diary. This is not cap. This is not slander. This is this man's own words. Theodore Herzel, the father of the Zionist movement, the one that's basically calling the shots, Zionists. They are calling the shots right now in modern day society, whether it be the media or whether it be the government. And they damn sure calling the shots in Israel right now.
A political activist who was the father of modern political Zionism, and he formed the Zionist organization and actively promoted Jewish immigration into Palestine in order to form a Jewish state. So he is absolutely key figure in Zionism. And in Theodore Herzel's diary entry just 4 years later, in June 1895, we read where he fantasizes on how the future Zionist state will be created. So this is the father of Zionism. That's what he said. We shall have to spirit the penniless population across the border by procuring employment for it in the transit countries, while denying it any employment in our own country.
Hold on, I don't think y'all caught that. Let me take this back a little bit.
5. We read where he fantasizes on how the future Zionist state will be created. So this is the father of Zionism. That's what he said. We shall have to spirit the penniless population across the border by procuring employment for it in the transit countries, while denying it any employment in our own country.
Okay, let me just clear up what he just said. The Zionists want to come in, move the Palestinians out the land across the borders into neighboring countries, get them employment there, deny them employment in the country from whence they come from. It's crazy.
Both the process of expropriation and the removal of the poor must be carried out discreetly.
Expropriation is the soft version of saying sterilization. So they want to carry the sterilization out discreetly, silently, not let the rest of the world get a whim of it, like they did when they was doing that to the Ethiopian Jews, and just like the Americans did, the European Americans did to the Native Americans here in the USA. Same thing. Same thing.
And circumspectly. So right at the beginning, even before Israel existed, Zionism envisaged the ethnic cleansing of the inhabitants of that land, the Palestinians.
It's terrible.
In 1895, Theodor Herzl fantasized the Jewish state would have to do that. Both the process of expropriation and the removal of the poor must be carried out. So in other words, don't let it be seen very openly. Try and do it a little bit secretly, but get rid of them. Get these people out of their land. We want to live there instead. And that is from The Complete Diaries of Theodor Herzl, Volume 1, page 88. To continue, at a cabinet meeting in 1919, Balfour, this is the British Foreign Secretary, informed his colleagues that in implementing the declaration that bore his name, the Balfour Declaration, there was no need to waste too much time, Balfour said. In Palestine, we do not propose even to go through the form of consulting the wishes of the present inhabitants. End quote. Let me read that again. This is Balfour, the author of the famous Balfour Declaration, said, in Palestine, we do not propose even to go through the form of consulting. In other words, the formality of talking to the Palestinians, getting their views, getting their input, talking to them. We do not propose to go through this formality. We do not to consult the wishes of the present inhabitants. So slightly contingent there. It's just the present inhabitants.
So basically, when they said present inhabitants, they already knew that they was going to be the future inhabitants by any and all means necessary, because they had everything laid out. Push them over the border, ethnic cleansing, sterilization, etc.
Not the future inhabitants. There was no need for this since, quote, all the four great powers are committed to Zionism, he said.
And the United States was one of them.
Far greater import, he said, than the desire and prejudices of the 700,000 Arabs. So what really matters was the four great powers, obviously Britain was one of them. Mm-hmm. That's what really mattered. They were all committed to Zionism, much more important than the prejudices, the views of seven.
And they still are today. They're 100% committed to Zionism. That's why anything the Zionists do in Israel, the United States backs it, no matter what. And what they're doing right now is ethnic cleansing and committing war crimes. And our tax dollars is paying for this. Since 1948, we have funneled way over $300 billion to Israel. The nation exists off of our backs, off the U.S. citizens' backs.
100,000 Arabs. Their views did not matter at all. And I would suggest that is based purely or largely on racism. The white man, British Empire versus the brown Arab. This is very white supremacist language. Churchill amplified this further, comparing the Palestinian.
Okay, I need to give a little context to Churchill because he's not going to do it. Winston Churchill was the Prime Minister of Great Britain during World War II, during the fight with what they so-called dubbed the Axis of Evil, Italy, Germany, and Japan. So he was the Prime Minister then of Great Britain. He was the one that was carpet bombing Germans, killing civilians. Well, he should have been brought up on war crimes, but they keep that hush-hush. But you're about to hear how racist this gentleman was. Let's jump back into it.
Arabs to Aboriginals in Australia amplified this further, comparing the Palestinian Arabs to Aboriginals in Australia and Native Americans. I'm going to come in a second to a quote directly from Winston Churchill, which is shocking to modern ears. Indeed, it shocked people in his time, by the way, not just a modern sensitivity. As many say, well, Churchill's racism was commonplace in his day and people didn't object. It was kind of conventional language. But some people didn't object, but many did. On historical record, many were outraged by what he said then. Anyway, Tariq Ali continues, the intentions of Western imperialism were implicitly genocidal from the very beginning of the process. So Tariq Ali is not for.
From the very beginning of the process, the Europeans' way they moved from country to country was genocidal, man. Let's jump back into it.
Theodor Herzel's language is clearly genocidal. From the very beginning of the process, from the conception, from the ideological thought itself, was genocidal. It was the Palestinian resistance prior to and post the Nakba that prevented such an occurrence. It was actually Palestinian resistance that stopped the complete genocide, he says. Racism was always an integral part of Churchill's political makeup. He made no bones about it. He didn't. He was completely open and shameless about it. Unlike some of his colleagues in all the three parties who preferred to wear a mask, so some kind of hid it behind a mask. He viewed Arabs as an inferior race compared to Europeans of any stripe. In the case of Palestine, he accused the Arabs of behaving like, quote, a dog in the manger, a view he spelled out in his evidence to the Peel Commission, set up in 1936 to report on the Palestinian uprising then in motion, and which had paralyzed the country. So this is actually a very famous paragraph I'm now going to read. Very, very offensive.
Okay, let me add a little more context to this. Now, it was an uprising. This 1936 was before World War II. You know, the Jews had started moving into the territory slowly but surely by then. And the Palestinians saw that, and it was an uprising then. Now, just to give a little context of what the gentleman said a couple of minutes ago, if it wasn't for that uprising, it wouldn't be any Palestinians in the land now, because they prevented the genocide back then. But the Zionists is trying to carry out that same genocide that they tried to in 1936 and several times after that, up to October the 7th, which is the start of this one right here. So you can call it what you want to, but anybody with eyes to see and ears can hear, see and hear that is genocide.
Then and now. But it tells us a lot about the British government's attitude, Churchill's attitude to Palestine, Zionism, Israel, Arabs, other races, non-whites. It tells us a lot, and this is the dominant view in his time. He wrote, quote, "I do not agree that the dog in the manger has the final right to the manger, even though he may have lain there for a very long time." So even though, to decode it, even though the Palestinians may have lived there for millennia, they have no right to it just because they've been living there. Just because it's their land, they have no right to it, in his view.
Wow.
I do not admit that right, he says. I do not admit, for instance, that a great wrong has been done to the Red Indians of America. Or the black people of Australia. I do not.
So this man said no wrong was done to the Indians here where we are at, and the Aborigines in Australia. No wrong was done. It was a genocide, man. It was ethnic cleansing. But let's continue. Let me see what the rest of this is going to say.
That a wrong has been done to these people by the fact that a stronger race, a higher grade race, or at any rate a more worldly wise race, to put it that way, has come in and taken their place.
That is crazy.
Quote, and Tariq Ramadan understandably says, "This is the voice of white supremacy."
And that's what I jumped this whole session off with. This is the voice of white supremacy. You heard it in a nutshell. Everywhere they move, it ain't about assimilating with the rest of the people that's in that land. It's about getting the people out the land. The Dutch tried to do it in South Africa. The British did it. They were successful in Australia. The Protestant Englishmen was successful with the Indians over here in the USA. This is what they do, man. This is not slander. This is not racism. It's not racist when you come in with facts. This is not anti-Semitism either, because these are Ashkenazi Jews that we're talking about. They're from the Isle of the Gentiles, from Genesis chapter 10, verse 3. They're from Japheth. They're not from Shem. Every race from Shem is Semitic. The Arabs are the ones that's Semitic. Black people are Semitic. So when you go to calling Palestinians dogs in the manger, like this, I still can't believe Winston Churchill said that. That's anti-Semitic. Lindsey Graham, he just finished calling the Palestinians dogs and animals. That's anti-Semitic. But hey, look, there it is. This thing that started October the 7th, 2023. This started in 1895, and it slowly progressed up to 1936, and the lid blew wide open in 1948 up to today. So do your research. That's all I got. Ola, until tomorrow. Peace.